Fox wildfire alert. 80 people, 80 are now dead from the devastating wildfires still sweeping Maui. Officials in Hawaii are in recovery mode with 1,500 still missing as a new fire prompts evacuations at a resort area just north of the heavy hit town of Lahaina.
Meanwhile, we're now learning that the island's alert sirens never went off. The Hawaii Emergency Services Administration confirming that the alarm it tests every month were not turned on, even as the fires started to spread.
Let's bring in now former Hawaii Congresswoman and Fox News contributor Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi, aloha this morning. Really happy to have you on the program. You know, I know through your military service and through your political service, you're deeply connected to everything going on in Hawaii. The number we have this morning is 80, from my understanding. None of the buildings, though, have yet been searched there in the historic Lahaina town. So that number threatens to go much, much higher. What can you update us on this morning?
Yeah, well, to all of my friends, people that I've worked with over years, you know, I served in Congress for 8 years, representing Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District. Maui is a part of it. So countless times I've been through the community of Lahaina. Ka'anapali, as you mentioned, is now being evacuated as of a few hours ago. The impact on this community is just it's hard to conceive of when you look at the catastrophe that they have gone through, and frankly are continuing to go through. This crisis is far from over. There are still active wildfires there on the island of Maui affecting a couple other communities, some that are only 50% under control. So this is not yet a community in recovery. There are people just trying to survive. Will, I know you've spent a lot of time on Maui growing up. You know that there is one road that goes through that town of Lahaina and a lot of communities that lie beyond that road as you continue to drive around the island. So as that community was completely shut off, I think only yesterday they reopened that road for residents only. There's a lot of folks out there who, you know, mothers who are on the verge of giving birth. There are families who have no access to food or fuel, or in some cases, clean water. We have community members literally getting on jet skis and boats, going around and skirting this blockade that was stopping them from trying to get supplies to people, just to be able to help their neighbors and friends. So there's so much frustration, there's so much suffering. You know, the real mourning has not even been able to begin to start because of people really looking to, how do I just get me and my family to tomorrow?
You know, Tulsi, I'm curious about why this alarm system didn't work. Have you heard anything else about that? Any explanation?
I've heard a few explanations. You know, the wildfire moved in a matter of hours, from everything that I have heard from really residents who are out there on the ground, and perhaps there wasn't enough time. I've also heard possibly the communications, the cell towers, the ability, even perhaps some of these alarm towers went out. There must be an investigation into this on why residents were not properly informed with time to evacuate. I don't want to guess to what the answer is, but there's a lot of different stories and reasons that are flying around right now.
Tulsi, I saw a tweet yesterday. It wasn't from a government official or anyone like that. I think it was probably more than anything just a concerned citizen, someone who experienced this and is in peril and frustration. But in the tweet, I found it interesting. They basically said, hey, listen, Maui and this town is just a small island, a small town, not big in importance maybe, but people. And the biggest military in the world is just an island away, a few miles away, a couple dozen miles away, 100 miles away on Oahu. And the idea of, could they have done more? Should they be doing more right now? In other words, all these resources are right there. Pearl Harbor, Hickam Air Force Base, Schofield Barracks, Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. All these military resources are there. Should they be doing more in Maui today? Could they have done more as this was happening? I was stationed in Oahu. I don't know what resources there could be helpful in a situation like this, but I do know there are ships in and out, and there are a lot of infrastructure there. You're in the military. You understand this. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, Joey, the answer to that is yes and yes. You know, I'm not privy to what's going on in the ops center there at any given moment, but it is hard for me to understand why there isn't, a mass deployment of medical support going out to these communities. You have the USS Mercy, we have Pacific Fleet, we have so many professionals who in times of need in other parts of the world, we have, tsunamis and earthquakes in other countries across the Asia Pacific where the U.S. military deploys immediately to provide that support. This crisis is happening in our community right now. Whether they are moving behind the scenes or not, I don't know. But the fact is, this crisis has been going on for days. They could have and should have already been there deploying food, water, medical care. Can you imagine the horrors that these families have gone through, the firefighters, the first responders have gone through? A friend of mine just told me his son is a firefighter and has come home telling them stories of the most horrific things that he has seen. Just the support for people to be able to go and talk to someone about what they're going through. I mean, it's needed on every level. They should not only be focusing on the rebuilding. The rebuilding effort will be massive. There's no question about that. But right now, we are still in survival mode. The people on Maui are still in survival mode. And every single facet of government, county, state, federal, military, needs to be deployed to wrap their arms around this community and let them know, hey, we're here for you. We care for you.
Yeah, it's hard to fathom, Joe. It truly is hard to fathom the number of government resources that are not very far away, and to see the devastation on your screens. I have friends who are running their boats right now with supplies back to Lahaina. Hey, Tulsi, I know right now is a recovery period, and I don't mean to make a lot of this. I know, my mom is still there between Lahaina and Kaanapali. But, and there will be plenty of time for this, an after-action report. But you have such unique experience and insight. I just thought I might ask you. RFK Jr. tweeted this yesterday, and it matched up with something that is my personal experience. I grew up, the hills were full of pineapple plantations. They turned into sugarcane fields. And then they went fallow, and it was full of nothing but dry grass. RFK Jr. brought this up as just horrible land management as part of what's led to this ability for the entire island to catch on fire. What do you know, or what are your thoughts on something like that and how this got so out of control?
Speaking directly to your point about the sugarcane fields and when that stopped just a few years ago, it is a very serious issue about the mismanagement or lack of management of those properties. And as you know also, Will, Maui, unfortunately, has a long history of water rights problems and mismanagement of how historically a lot of the water that has traditionally gone down as nature intended to feed different communities from atop the mountain. Those water rights were sold to corporations who rechanneled and rerouted that water to go towards certain plantations and away from those different communities. It's a big issue, but it's one that continues to be battled and fought. Maui deals with drought very often. And so there need to be real hard questions asked and answered about access to water, how these lands are being managed or not, and frankly, how the first response, how the response went that allowed this to go on. I have a friend who is a firefighter who said that the Maui fire is horribly understaffed. It's a lot, and there needs to be a serious after-action review. It'll come too late for all of the families who have lost everything. But it must be done to ensure accountability, and that something like this cannot be allowed to happen again.
Tulsi, thank you so much. We always appreciate your insight, and especially on this morning.
Thank you, Tulsi.
For your care. Aloha.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.